Welcome back to another LeaderLINK episode. Today I'm joined with Shacarion. So before we get into this, Shacarion, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, and all the ins and outs?
Yeah. My name is Shacarion. I currently attend Heritage High School and I'm a senior. I'm very passionate about artificial intelligence, but specifically the project that I'm working on. And yeah, today he's going to be asking me some cool questions and I'm here to answer.
Awesome. So let's start off with the first question. What problem did you notice that inspired you to start your AI business, and why did you think AI was the right solution?
So to answer the first part of what inspired me to kind of, go on this journey of creating this product or starting this business, I'd say it's kind of finding it was me sensing a gap, like especially within the school system. Like I'm around a lot of teens, especially like within my school, who don't really like school. They say a lot of bad things about it, and it's just like I wanted to find a solution that could kind of bridge that gap, bridge the I don't like school and bridge like the learning curve. Because and for myself, especially as a teen, being a teen, going to my school, I found that I don't always have access to the tools that I need, to be as successful as I can, and I feel that if I can create a product or a solution to the problem of people being disconnected from school, which can obviously heavily affect their mental health. And then from there, it's just kind of like a cascade effect of other negative effects. If I can create a solution to that, I felt like I could be doing my part in the world. I could be contributing in a positive factor in the world, and that's ultimately what I want to do. I want to create something to where it can give back to people in a positive regard. And as far as AI, like in general, it's a kind of fun. It's kind of a funny story because initially I just love coding. Yeah, I love learning about just the coding language JavaScript. I love learning about Python and just all the kind of intricate ideas that come with it. Like you have to define your functions, and then for JavaScript it's built off of various parts. You have CSS, you have HTML, then you have JavaScript, like all combined to like create the entire user face that the user sees. And I just find that like to be so amazing. And so like for obviously, to answer your question, why AI specifically, it's mostly because it was mixed with my loving for coding, but also like AI is a fairly new topic as well, So if I can find an idea that can be used with this fairly new topic, I feel like I could be doing my part with um a program that isn't seen very like highly, because people see AI, they think it's going to take over the world. They think AI is just this big problem, and I feel like if I can create a centralized solution with this big problem that people see, I feel like I can not only be doing my part, but also be doing it with something that wasn't previously seen in a high regard. Does that make sense?
Of course, yes, I get it. And
Yeah.
before we move forward, would you mind telling us more about your business specifically and what it's doing and what it's targeting?
Yeah. So my business is I'm in the AI companion market industry, and my business is essentially creating AI companions as a tool that teens can interact with, which could then promote mental wellness. And so it's essentially around an AI companion that has various modes within it, right? And the teens interact with those modes. For example, a math processing system, which not only solves complex problems but gives the user step-by-step breakdown of how to solve those problems so that they can not only understand the topics at hand, but also understand the intricate steps that it takes to become or to understand these complex math problems. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. So to add on to how you mentioned earlier how you learned these skills, could you talk to us how, like, if there was any specific apps that you used to learn these skills needed to build your AI product, and what was the hardest concept to understand at first?
Okay. So as far as I come from a low income household, so like the money isn't just like, thrown on the table. And so I feel like it's kind of I have to be as resourceful as I could. And so I actually used a website. It's called freecode.org. And I started off, I remember spending like months just learning like Python, how to define a function, if else, like all those type of different parameter, or learning about all those different type of Python functions, and just uh, a multitude of very fun and exciting things that Python has to offer. And then from there, it's kind of like a natural transition process. I love to learn. I like to learn about all these different processes, especially within Python. And then it's kind of like, what can I personally do with these processes, to enhance my learning? And then over time, my kind of curiosity for what I could do with Python, with the Python coding language, kind of just led to me going on like this kind of tangent where I'm just constantly building, and the idea of what can I build, not only build, but what problems can I also solve in the world, or what specific pain points can I kind of counteract in the world with my business, is where my kind of mind frame was from there. And then from there, it was just months of kind of relentlessly iterating towards that, just kind of staying focused. I remember most of my summer, like the summer entering my senior year, most of my time was allocated towards doing that. I remember waking up explicitly at 7 in the morning and then coding. And this is like, I'm not like talking about it now. It's like very kind of insane. But I remember waking up at 7 in the morning and kind of coding all the way into like, I believe like 12 at night. Like seriously, of course, I found downtime to take care of myself, take care of all the like necessities that I have to do. But I just remember just like having this kind of like ardent curiosity for what more could I do. And I guess like my curiosity for that, it just kind of built up into, and that kind of culminated into this, full stack multi-modular AI campaign that I'm currently working on. So I would say the hardest concepts to truly understand was definitely in Python, and it was definitely variables. I mean, because you can define a variable. Like I kind of thought this was like, I think in order to really truly learn how to code, you have to kind of throw out the I know what I'm doing aspect of things, and then kind of realize that, hey, I'm a beginner at this. I don't know what I'm doing. I have no clue what's going on. And so then you learn and you just keep learning, and that allows you to build up. Because one of the main things that I feel like really was a challenge for me is because I went into Python thinking, oh, I know how to code. I took AP Computer Science. I know what I'm doing and all that stuff. And then you quickly, as you take the course, you quickly find out that what you thought you knew is not it's not the real like idea of it. And so I find that to be one of the biggest challenges that I face. It's just kind of knowing, or just kind of struggling at first with learning variables, and you have parameters, just different kind of ideas within the Python coding language. Like I struggled with feeling like I know what I'm doing. Does that make sense?
Yes.
But like the truth is, I had no idea what I'm doing. I
Hmm.
don't like I don't know how to truly like formulate that into words, but like the only way I can describe it, it's like you think you know how to hit a backflip, right? You tell all your friends, "Hey, meet me after school. I'm going to show you that I can hit a backflip," right? And then it's like you're in the heat of the moment. All your friends are gathered around you, and it's like, "Okay, let's see it," And then like you're stuck, because like you thought you know how to hit a backflip because you watched a bunch of YouTube videos the night before, but like in the moment, it's like I really don't know what I'm doing. And so I'd say that's one of the biggest things that I definitely struggle with, not only with coding, but just like also I can kind of transition this to life in general. It's just one of the things I struggle with coding specifically, or with working on my business, is just realizing that I don't know everything, and it's kind of a learning process, and to just kind of throw away that like preconceived notion that I'm aware of everything, and I think that's one of the biggest problems I struggled with.
Going off of you talking about coding, so looking beyond coding, what skills have you had to learn and develop, such as communication, leadership, and marketing when building your business?
Oh, yeah. So communication, leadership, and marketing. I'm going to answer those in three different segments. So, as far as communication goes, when building my business, I think what's more important, or what's as important or more important than coding, and building the business, is being able to communicate your ideas to others, to be on the same page with others so that they can understand your viewpoints and where you're trying to go. And so I think and for the communication aspect of things, as far as building my business goes, I think that was probably one of the things I had to build the most, not just sitting there in my room coding, but also realizing that I have to be able to communicate my ideas to other people. And as far as a leadership aspect goes, I'd say that I've worked with various people on my projects, and it's you I think you realize that this is your idea, so majority of this stuff is on you to figure it out. And the steps to get there, the steps to build your business, it's obviously not like a linear path, you have to do point A or you have to do point B, which is like, hey, I'm going to talk to these people I'm working with, explain my idea, but also I want to work on this code. And so I think becoming a leader with also explaining like, hey, I'm working on this code right now, but I'd love it if you guys can allocate your time towards this. And I think that's one of the biggest like leadership skills that I've built when building my business. And was community the last one?
Um, it wasn't, it's just skills in general that you've made. So if that's something you'd like to bring up, I would love to hear about it.
Yeah. Okay. This is so community is one of the like most recent skills that I've learned, and I'm actually glad I've learned this. And it just involves getting involved with my community. Like I can create a product, I can code it, and I can just communicate with people around me. But I feel like, especially when it comes to having a product and fitting your target audience, if you truly want to like carry this business, it's like a startup one day, which is where I'm obviously like pushing towards. If you want to truly take this to that next level, it takes getting real valid data and feedback from your target audience. And so as far as interacting with my community goes, I've made a Google form to where I've also managed to get 100+ responses, but not just responses in the Google form, but I've also been able to talk to people, and ask questions such as, what's your personal opinions on AI? What do you think? Where do you think AI is starting to trend? What do you think about an AI companion tool to assist you throughout your daily life? And asking those questions. And I feel like me getting involved with the community takes the aspect of, I know what I'm doing. I can code things and these teens will love it. And then it replaces that with, okay, I see this is something teens really care about. Let me go back to code and switch my product so that it can meet those demands, and meet those kind of needs. And so I think interacting with the community or the people around my school and getting their responses was like honestly a transformation point with me. And I think that's another skill I unlocked. Just kind of, instead of focusing on coding, interacting with my community.
Winding it back a little bit. So beyond skills, beyond all of what you've accomplished so far, can you describe some failures or setbacks that you've experienced while building your business, and what did you learn from
Oh yeah.
it?
Yeah, I can. Yeah. As far as failures, so I'll give you like, okay, I started like this idea, I started 10 months ago, right? So, but in that 10 months, there have been countless of failures, like especially pertaining to my business and like this idea just in general. One of the first things that I can like remember vividly is the idea of kind of knowing when to separate yourself from certain people due to you guys not being able to align on the same frequency, because and it's not like anything like personal, people have their lives, people have things that they're going through, and so I understand that completely. But I'd say one of the like kind of setbacks that really like kind of hit me with when pertaining to the business would be almost being not over reliant, but relying on people who showed me that they weren't kind of in it from the day one, because if I like, I'll give you an example. So a while back, I was working with a couple of people, we kind of talked about the idea that I have and how it was a grand idea, and they thought it was amazing. And I was just glad they were on the same page. In fact, I was just glad that people were just as excited as me about this, So I was just 100% willing to, take all the, miscommunication and all the negatives that came back with it. But I realized that if I wanted to go into that next level, create a product, and not only create a product, but build it up, I'd have to, cut off loose ends. And so I think a setback that I've kind of faced when building my business is allowing the people who weren't as aligned with me to kind of stay, and something that I learned from that is that not everyone will be aligned with you. That is completely okay, but it's also okay to kind of cut your ties with them when the time is appropriate. And actually transitioning into another kind of setback or failure I've mentioned. It's the idea of kind of critiques, I mean, and everyone gets it, you try to do something different, or you try to do something original in a way, and you get the feedback, that sounds stupid, isn't that already done with ChatGPT, isn't it? And I think a setback that I've like faced as like when building this business would be like kind of falling into that loop, hey, what if my idea isn't like as good as I thought it'd be? What if ChatGPT is already doing this, And I think that was a specific that, and also, not cutting off people when the time was right. Those would be the two most important setbacks and failures that I think I've kind of felt, or traps that I fell into, which allowed me to kind of like slow down or hinder my overall progress. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. So moving on to the last question, we talked about some of your failures that you've faced and setbacks. What is some advice that you would give to other students who want to start an AI or tech related business, or any business in general?
Yeah, great question. Um, so if there was any advice I'd give to anyone, and this was, and I truly live by these words, and I just want to, I've heard this from Steve Jobs, the CEO and founder of Apple. I've heard these quotes, and I think if I were to give any advice, it'd be for them to realize that everything that you see in the world around you was created by someone no smarter than you are, and you can impact the world, you can change the world. And finding out that if you poke in, like if you have a bubble and you poke into it, whether that's implementing your own ideas or own products into the world, something can pop out, and something can grow that can be beautiful on the other side. And I think once you realize that, I don't think you will be the same, because then you'll start to realize that I have an idea, I want to act on that, and then something positive could come out of that, And this isn't me necessarily saying that, anyone who's starting this could run a multi-million-dollar business or anything like that. But it's me like saying that if you have an idea and you truly believe, or you truly want your idea to work, realize that everything around you was created by someone who is no smarter than you are, and that if they can do it, there's 100% chance that you can put in the effort to do it as well. And so that would be one like part of the advice I'd give. The second piece of advice I'd give is just to honestly stay focused. As I mentioned, I've been doing this for 10 months, and I've managed to, obviously create the AI companion, or the full stack multi-modular AI companion, which is obviously something that it's almost unheard of from 17 or 18-year-olds to do, because you have software engineers in industry like kind of working on this, But one piece of advice I'd give to them is just stay focused, and that's the work or the amount of things that I've been able to accomplish. Just even being in an interview with you and being blessed enough to have the moment to kind of share my ideas with you, like it just shows that like staying focused and kind of keeping your ideas, as the main important thing, not like allowing people's ideas to persuade you, or just falling for the traps of your ideas aren't good enough. Just a piece of advice I'd give is just to stay focused. Obviously, you want to be truly yourself. Because that's another thing. See, like it's these ideas kind of build upon each other. But before I transition, I'd like to really lay out what my second piece of advice, so it doesn't sound like I'm just rambling. But that piece of advice is just to stay focused. Stay locked in on what you truly want to do, and I feel like honestly, you'll make progress for it. And what I've been able to accomplish, and the amount of people that I've been able to meet, with you included. It just shows that if you stay focused and stay dedicated for a long period of time, you can accomplish it. And now transitioning into the next idea, it would just be to be yourself. Honestly, I would say being yourself is honestly the differentiator. I've realized this super early. I told you I found a quote from Steve Jobs, right? But I realized, like, especially with me being African American and me being low income, if I want to, create a startup one day, I realized I don't have to be the next Steve Jobs, the next Bill Gates, the next Mark Zuckerberg. I can be the first Shacarion, I can create a startup business that can distribute AI companions that can truly assist teens or people in general with the name Shacarion title with it, And so that's why I think just being myself and kind of letting that flow or letting that flow into the interactions that I have with people, whether that be like peers in school, when I'm talking to them about my AI companion or what their personal beliefs are, or whether that's just adding my own twist on what I believe the perfect UI would look like or the user interface would look like for teens, or just kind of gathering data from the Google form and just adding my own twist in there. I think me being myself and me staying true to who I truly am is very, very important to like not only create something unique and cultivate that kind of unique experience, especially within a modern day economy where there's a lot of technology and a lot of AI programs. I think that is important to truly separating yourself from the competition, because if you truly wanted to be the next Steve Jobs, you would try to create the next smartphone, but we already have a bunch of those, And so I realized if I want to create AI companions, which are definitely prevalent within today's economy, but they don't quite get the job done of truly assisting users and prioritizing ethics. And I think they're mostly built for interactivity. But I realized if I want to create a startup, or create a business, I want to not only be myself, because that allows my ideas to shine through my product. You can realize that, hey, I'm interacting with this AI companion and the experience is truly not like no other. And I feel like that's what made people in the past do exceptional things as well. Think of Elon Musk, with SpaceX and Teslas. People weren't thinking Teslas would be, the number one car, or electric cars would be prevalent within today's economy, 10 to 15 years ago. But now I guarantee if you were to walk outside, you would see many people driving Teslas, And I think that was only the case. Teslas is only here today because Elon Musk was not only persistent, he didn't fall into the traps of people telling him he's wrong, but he also was himself. He added his own spin into the products that he wanted to create. And I feel like over time that just creates this like unique experience that makes people want to buy in, because that's at the end of the day, building a business. At the end of the day, your business is a business. You have to be able to generate revenue adequately to be able to obviously pay, the people work under you, and just allow a lot of other things to fluctuate efficiently. And so I think if you want to create a business or create an efficient business at that, you have to realize that at the end of the day, you can have fun, you can put your soul into your products, but also it has to be something that can be usable, And I think that's one of the main things that I've realized when creating my business, or being in the early kind of 10 months of creating my business. That's an advice. Yeah. So the piece of advice I'd give is to stay focused, always be yourself no matter what, and just realize that it's not something that happens overnight. I think, yeah, that's another, those are the three pieces of advice. If I could give to anyone, I would say those are the three main ideas that I want anyone wanting to build a tech startup or wanting to start a business to kind of indulge into, because I feel like these ideas that I have, staying focused, that's a clear foundation. Being yourself, having a unique product, that's another clear foundation that will separate you in the long term. And so if someone can adopt these ideals in the start, I mean, as time goes on, these ideas will only improve. If I have a stable foundation in that, I want to not only apply ethics into my AI campaigns, but I also want it to be uniquely myself. I stay focused. That foundation will only build, so that when you turn 20s or you're in your 30s, that foundation can only get greater from there, because that's how compounding efforts work. If you have the same mindset, like if you have the mindset that you will create unique value into your product, every time that you interact with your product, that idea will be pushed into that, And so I just think having that stable foundation allows ideas to further compound into even greater things. And so, yeah, those would be the kind of key ideas or pieces of advice I would give to anyone wanting to, start a business or run a startup, especially related in a tech field where it's a rapidly advancing and changing field that, changes by the months. And there are a lot of key innovation. There are a lot of key innovative ideas that are happening on a constant basis, So if you can create something unique to you and what you truly feel is right, I think honestly, that's another piece of advice. I think those are like all kind of those ideas culminate into one big, just, you got this and you can do it, those would be like the main ideas that I would give, or main pieces of advice I'd give to anyone wanting to build a company in the tech industry specifically. Yeah.
Awesome. So before we wrap things up, is there anywhere our viewers can find you, like any social medias or etc.?
Yeah, my Instagram is Kari2Fire, C, all lowercase, Carii number two, lowercase Firee. I would say though, while I do have a couple of posts on there and I do have highlights, I'm not very active on there just because like I'm also balancing, like school with my 5 AP classes, self-studying. Like it's a lot going on. So I'm not very active. And so I wouldn't want them to, I mean, they, of course they should follow me if they want to, but I'm just saying that I'm not very active on there to a degree of like, you check my account and you see that just because I'm a lot focused on what I have going on at the moment. But yeah, I mean, if the people who are listening to this or watching this want to follow me, I'd 100% appreciate it. And once again, I just want to say thank you for having me here. It's
Yeah,
been an honor.
it's been an honor myself interviewing you, and I've learned a lot through this interview. And thank you everybody for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Yeah.
Bye.